What brought you into security over law enforcement?
I kind of got into the industry by accident. I got into it, like I said, when I was in college, and then ended up coming on with this company. And I never planned on staying. It was always just going to be something to, pay the bills, keep the lights on while I was waiting to go back to school once COVID was done. Ended up having a ton of opportunities at this company and was lucky enough to kind of climb up the ladder. And so I ended up sticking around and kind of was able to make a career out of it unintentionally. So
you kind of touched on this in a previous interview, but how do you balance performance of the job with empathy for what the actual homeless person or the mentally ill or drug addicted person is going through?
I think the most important, and it sounds simple, but it sometimes isn't for people, is just to come at it from that human perspective. I think anytime you come into a situation where you try to put yourself above someone else and not recognize that that could easily be you in their shoes if some circumstances were different, you're not going to really find any common ground with that person. So never gloss over the fact that you have a job to do and that is the catalyst for you being there, but you're not trying to make their day any harder while you do your job, and just kind of being a human, being understanding of that. It could be as simple as, hey man, I know it's really cold outside. Unfortunately, I can't have you in this building, but there's a warming shelter down the road I know about, or can I get you some hand warmers, or in the summertime, a bottle of water, a cigarette, anything like that, to kind of add a little bit more of that human element to the conversation. And not, like I said, not glossing over the fact that you are there at the end of the day as a security guard in a security capacity, and I think that goes a long way with most people.
So clearly, with everything being so politicized in 2025, do you feel that the political nature of, say, the country right now, does that make it harder for private security, or have you seen any issues with that?
I think it can definitely make it harder. I think it also just helps to keep people a little bit more aware of what they're doing. Making good decisions and keeping optics in mind should be something you're always doing, no matter the political state of whatever part of the country you're in. So it really doesn't make a huge impact on the day-to-day, realistically.
Working in your capacity, how often do you genuinely feel unsafe?
It's pretty rare these days, man. This company, I will say, has a lot of resources to help with officer safety, more so than any other company I've worked for. I've always said that that's a big reason of why I enjoy working here so much. We've got nearby guards in other districts. We've got radio contact with those guards. If I'm working on something and I feel like I could benefit from having a second guard on site, all I have to do is hop on the radio, give an update to what's going on, and I'll have, if need be, multiple other guards there. And so that's really helpful for kind of getting out ahead of unsafe situations before they might get that full length of being unsafe. Obviously there's some times, what I will say in this job, a lot of the time it's more of a wrong place, wrong time, and less of us going and directly addressing those really unsafe issues.
When I first moved here in 2020, heroin was like the big drug on the street. Have you seen a difference with the rise of fentanyl? Has it changed maybe the aggression level of the people that you interact with, or have you seen an increase in more dangerous types of contacts with fentanyl, or do you see it kind of being the opposite way?
I haven't really seen a big shift in the types of contacts. I've definitely seen fentanyl way more than I've ever seen it before. And I've seen a lot less heroin than we were back when I started here. The upside of that is we're seeing a lot less needles. They're still out there and you still have to be careful about it, but we're seeing a lot more of the burnt foil and that kind of residue, more so than having to worry about the sharps. We're still dealing with about the same types of contacts. I would say you're getting people that are, in the nighttime, they're in a pretty deep sleep, and you got to be worried about overdose, and so a lot of welfare checks and things of that nature. But
do you think the average person understands kind of the difference of security in 2025 versus what they see, the image of security from the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s?
I would say probably not. I think that you usually get two of the extremes. They either kind of think of that observe and report stereotype, or they think of kind of the overzealous, failed out of the police academy stereotype. when a lot of times the reality is it's a lot more in the middle. And so, yeah, I think people definitely have a lot of misconceptions about it in 2025.
What do you think is the biggest difference between private security in Portland and in most places that don't see the type of issues that we have here?
I think in Portland, you are going to be having to problem solve a lot more, and you're going to be dealing with a lot of issues firsthand. While we might not be taking some of the higher profile emergency calls like the police would take, we still are contacting a lot of people throughout the day, especially a lot of the houseless folks out here. You'll be in homeless camps, you'll be talking to people at their tents, all sorts of different types of contacts. And it just kind of gives you a pretty big variety of different contacts throughout the day.
So how much of your job is based around concierge like that, checking in, kind of making sure that the client has a forward-facing officer that they can report to?
I'd say that's one of the more important parts of it. That's a daily occurrence. I think if you can get out ahead of a lot of issues, you're going to find that you have a way easier time doing the job as a whole. It's a customer service job at the end of the day. And so if your clients feel taken care of and they feel like they're getting what they paid for and they're getting their money's worth from that service that they're paying a lot of money for, I think that's the most important part. So even on a day where there may not be folks loitering on the property or tents set up, it's still good to check in, make sure there aren't any issues going on. More often than not, you might be able to address a concern or just do a check-in. So.
If you had to give any advice to someone who's looking to get into private security, why should they choose Echelon?
For me, it's pretty obvious. It's leaps and bounds different from any company I've ever worked at. It's the infrastructure for me. It's that you have backup. You've got a district where you can really kind of create your own day. You've got a ton of autonomy, and you're really free to make your own decisions and handle any job in the best way that you see fit, as long as it's within the company's scope.